With Miranda Kahn, J.D. Hayworth back with you for the final half hour, within the final hour
there you
of America's Forum, putting a fine point on it, chronologically speaking. Also, in terms of a chronologically themed look at politics, the Republican Party took control of the Senate during last year's midterm elections, and that arguably turned the tides to the right, allowing Republicans full control of Congress for the first time since President Obama took office. It was different back when I went to Congress and Bill Clinton was in place, and it had been 40 years since Republicans had held the House.
Well, many believe, obviously, that after President Obama finishes up his term, that, you know, the tables will turn and then a Republican will become president, because that's typically been how it's gone in the past.
Well, yeah, but it's been interesting, almost analogous to the lunar tides, you know, that the things would change in the presidency, and yet to mix scientific metaphors, you had Congress moving at a glacial pace, where it was from 1952.
Nice
thank you very much. From 1952 until 1994, really 1954 to 1994. And so when I was elected to Congress, first time in my lifetime, Republicans had held the majority. So that was something interesting. Our buddy John Boehner, I believe, is standing by.
Or Bachman.
John Bachman. Our pal John Boehner cries tears like I do. But John Bachman, in a very dispassionate way, with a big grin on his face at my misidentification, is here to set us straight on the possibility of a Republican legislative majority becoming permanent.
Well, that's what some liberals are concerned about right now, JD, and there's a couple of reasons why, and we'll get to those in just a second. Quickly, I don't blame you for crying, JD. I cried, and any father cried too, seeing those ads.
Amen.
Very emotional stuff, but we'll move on. You know, today Congress is gearing up for a budget battle with President Obama after he unveiled his nearly $4 trillion proposal. The president may have a hard time selling this to Congress, of course, with the GOP now in control of both chambers. We've seen these political pendulum swings that you mentioned, where it seems like one party has been in power for a long time. JD, you alluded to this, but we're kind of in a different period right now, and this has really started in the 1990s when JD first got elected. The National Journal making the case now that the Republican Party is here to stay. Some political analysts say that the midterms, which typically have a lower voter turnout, are also low-hanging fruit for the Republican Party, and the presidential elections are favoring the left. But we digress here. Let's move on, if we could get a little bit ahead. The Republican Party had both majorities in the House and the Senate, but things might not be as cut and dried as they'd like them to be. That larger GOP caucus could cause some problems. We've seen this already. Occasional breakdowns in party line voting and intra-party fighting. Now in the Senate, the GOP is learning some of the lessons that the Democrats faced back when they had the power with the filibuster. But now Republicans are the ones who have to get enough votes, so 60 votes, to end a Democratic filibuster. In the House, the Democrats have even less to say due to their majority rule by the Republicans. House Speaker John Boehner has to deal with these issues in his own party, including this recent dust-up over the abortion bill that would have abandoned the procedure after 20 weeks. That was blocked by a lot of female Republicans. It should have been a slam dunk, but those female Republicans rebuked the provision in the bill, and the House leadership had to pull it before it was eventually passed. Immigration is another issue that could cause some concerns for Republicans. It hasn't really turned out the way many in the party leadership had hoped. Now, this border security bill, which will be talked about today, it could have put the Department of Homeland Security in a position where they had a lot more authority with operations on the U.S.-Mexico border, but some hardliners, border hawks, balked at that measure, claiming it didn't do enough to roll back the president's immigration executive orders. Now, officially, that bill was pulled because of the snowstorm. Obviously, some other stuff going on behind the scenes. Now, things have gotten off to a rough start for the Republican-led Congress. Speaker John Boehner chalked it up to growing pains.
The committees, in many cases, have not had their organizational meetings. And so, yeah, there have been a couple of stumbles, all in our effort to show the American people that we're here to listen to their priorities.
Now, a couple of factors here. We mentioned these voters that the Democrats stand to lose. One, working class white voters. Now, they are going over to the Republican Party. We've had a lot of emphasis from the Democrats on appealing to these minorities. They're losing those white voters, and also some educated upper middle class white voters are also going to the Republican Party that had voted for Democrats.
We'll keep an eye on it, John Bachman, and we're coming right back.